think the recording is working. We'll give it a 1 or 2 seconds for buffering, and then okay. Hi Uma.
Hey, hi Abhi.
How are
Good
you doing?
morning. Good.
Good morning. Good morning.
Lot of things are happening at your end.
Yeah, a lot of things. Exciting stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks for your time. I have the slide pack open. Should I bring it up now, or should we bring it up a little later? I think we could just keep it on the side and maybe start the quick few things that we wanted to cover, and then bring it up there. So thanks for joining. I think gives me real happiness and honor to have you today. I think we've been discussing about communities. We've had various discussions, and as you know, that the student community is something that we've launched from the AtPace side, and you've been one of our inspirations and motivations, right? For from the time we started discussing, right? So what we could do is today, why don't you share with the audience about your journey before we get into the student community stuff? What really drives you, what motivates you, because I think we all need those motivational bites and energy bites that you pick up, right? So I'll hand it over to you, and then we can get into the few slides that we have.
Okay, sounds good. So a brief intro about myself. So I joined corporate almost 17 years back, and it's a great pleasure to say that we both of us onboarded the same company at the same time on the same, not probably on the same day. You were placed before me, but then I just followed you from the batch. So
it's just about a month, right?
Yeah. So it has been an incredible journey so far, and I'm still attached with the same corporate. So that's even more, I would say, astonishing to the, I'm sure to some of the audience of this live stream, because the generation that we have seen and we belong to, excuse my throat for the time being.
That's okay.
So we have seen, somebody getting engaged to one company for long, 10 years, 15 years were just a number. So it was always beyond 2 decades or 3 decades. That is what we have seen. So having said that, currently I'm doing a lot of these kind of engagements, just as a passion. I'm associated with my alma mater, ISWBM also, wherein I'm interacting with someone, and I'll do a lot of part-time coaching, teaching kind of. And it was my pleasure that you approached me for AtPace, and the kind of thought process you had. This entire community of practice, community of learning was your brainchild, and it was really encouraging as well as inspiring to see some of my one of my batchmate, okay, who has been part of a corporate journey and then chose to be on its own. Okay, so that gave me a lot of, courage to think of something probably in future. Okay, so having said that, I would say that I'm really intrigued how you came upon with this idea, because frankly speaking, I wasn't aware about community learning before, I had a discussion with you, and that was the triggering point, that I kept on hooked. Our discussions continued from lot of things to this, and then in particular, and then we went on deep into these things, and then later on I decided that definitely it will be a great learning for me if I get to see how you are actually manifesting what you have ideated. And me being part of that journey, I feel myself honored and I would say thankful that I got this chance of learning from you. So that's is a kind of, a pretext to some of us, because not all of us, I think, are aware about community learning. So if you could throw some light on that, it would be good.
Yeah. So thanks again, Uma. I think a lot of kind words, but yeah, I think at some point in time, definitely, I think I would go back to those days when we used to do group study, even in our MBA HR days, right? Now, if you really look at it, those were the smaller groups, communities, whatever you call it, right? And I'll bring up the slide pack that we have and just keep it on the side so that uh, people can see some of the concepts or what we are trying to do. Now, I think what's very important for me is I've grown up in a family which had 40, 50 people at any point in time, right? We keep talking about it takes a village. In India there's a saying, right? It takes a village to bring up a child. So, if I really think through, and with COVID setting in and all of that, right, we all have been individual contributors, team leaders, or those kind of roles. But I think how important it is, because I think there are informal ways of these communities or safety nets. So let's say we have a peer group whom we fall back on, right? But in 2020, when I moved to Singapore and I started attending all of these online webinars and all of these, I think one of the webinars specifically gave me a lot of insight. Two things were getting covered there. It was actually the webinar with the product that we were discussing earlier about OrgLens, right, where the organization dynamics and network analytics came in. But what intrigued me was one of the speakers there was talking about some of the most successful companies of the current era who have these as formalized, structured, uh, groups, or I would say more, maybe, I'll stick to the word communities, learning or the practice. They have sales communities. They have, I think, multiple of them. I don't recollect all of those now, and they actually attach a revenue or kind of a monetary value to what is coming out of those communities, right? Going back to the days when we were working together, I had been part of the initiative, right, where some of these things we did for engagement. That was more engagement driven, right, for early professionals or the campus candidates. But then when I started talking, and networking was easy because we had online and everyone was okay to do online networking. I started thinking about how that piece has changed, because when I spoke to my college, like you said, I used to, because again those elements also became online, the industry speaks and the connects and all. So went back to college, spoke to quite a few of the students, and then realized that that particular gap, which we saw maybe about 15 years back, still exists, right? So what I immediately did is I went back to the industry professionals, because now I have that group of people to kind of bounce off the overall idea with, right? And so the point here that you and me discussed earlier was, today I think there's a lot of effort which the colleges are putting in. Definitely, the college education is not completely unnecessary. Definitely, that theoretical part is there, which I think to large extent should be there. But I think the gap that we see here, right, and we see also that there's a lot of effort to get them ready for the interviews and placements and all. But right, but I think what we are here to discuss today is, it's not the preparation doesn't stop there. That is just the beginning for them, because that's the beginning of their corporate journey, right? So what we did is we actually had gone back.
Okay, I have a small point to
Go
make
ahead.
here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I like the tagline that you have used, that it is not just about corporate readiness, it is about business readiness, because coming from a corporate, I still feel, and in the HR profession, I still feel that business is striving to make the campus hires, be business ready and to make them deployable with a billable opportunity. See, they are getting deployed, but the billability factor is what differentiates, or rather I would say helps us to gain or take that mileage, the profitability mileage over a lateral hire. So that is where still most of the organizations, and we coming from service industry, it would be a great help to us if we find that workforce, that pool, be business ready before, already, at least already before they are joining. So I'm very happy of seeing this business readiness, that you are coming from that perspective, not just cracking interviews, but be deployable. So you are
absolutely
moving far ahead. So you are actually wearing your corporate hat and then you are designing this program. Marvelous. I hope most of the HR professionals watching this live stream would be very keen to find that pool, that talent pool, who are ready to be deployed, not just ready to join the corporate, and on billable roles. That's the most important factor.
That's right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I think very relevant, because when I went back, so when I spoke to the college students and found that they're really struggling, uh, and then went back and spoke to the corporates, we kind of did a dipstick survey and focus interviews, and there were people from around the industries, right? Mostly, okay, so there's a little bit of spelling mistake on the infrastructure, but otherwise people were there, right? So they were around 15% from that segment. ITITS, obviously, that's large part of my life is spent in that industry sector, right? So a lot of them were there. But I think it definitely was an insight that they are also struggling, and they're struggling exactly with the point that you mentioned, is to deploy, as soon as possible, because for them, business is moving at a complete different speed, right? And it's evolving. And but what you and me saw 15 years back has not moved much, right? It probably has moved just few
Still
inches.
jostling with the same problems.
Yeah, right. So I think that ways, I think I found it's definitely important that someone should kind of bring this up. And when I when I was doing this part, I immediately got reminded of the sales community, or that particular masterclass or webinar I was part of, where it was spoken about how communities of practice really gives. So there are three things that come up immediately, right? One, people are almost on the same journey. Whoever is in that community of practice is in the same journey that you are in, right? Maybe a little ahead of you, a little behind you, but that's the fun, right? Someone who's a little ahead helps the people who are there, and then people who are behind kind of catch up, right? So there are people in the same, you get peer, no one is judging you, so you have that safety net, right? So safety net is the thing. Then people are in the same journey, and the third is, if you, me, and professionals who are in the industry, who've given these inputs, or who are there listening, I think it's important that we also kind of think through that now it's time for us to give back, right? And I think that's a key element we'll cover also today, towards the end. But I think I'd be keen to. So I think this one was just to show that we had people on the right. You see actually the community platform, Uma. So there are different kind of. It's a private community platform. We call it AtPace. So the full thing is Grow at Pace, which means everyone has their own learning journey, upskilling, learning, and evolution journey, and we respect that. So there are different parts to it. There are different kind of content sharing that continues to happen. So every slide has sneak peek of what's going on the platform. So, and there's some bit of info that we collected, or baselining that we did. So a lot of those professionals that you saw in that pie chart, all of this, they gave us inputs that, so I went and asked them that, what do you expect, right, from these? So where's the gap? I mean, that gap that we saw in the first slide, what is the gap? So I think they did cover some of these, but I don't want to get into each one of these, but more or less whatever they said, we were able to categorize them into these seven uh, areas, right? Each of these could be definitely a little broad, and we have to bring in deeper elements to it. But today, when you look at this, Suma, and we know that the platform or the community of practice for the students were launched on 1st of April. So we are almost like 2 months down, right? Out of a first block of 3 months. But you as an industry professional with all of this, what do you think, what goes on in your mind when you look at the slide in terms of, these elements of expectation?
Yeah, very much. See, mostly from a fresher, what do we expect? That the person will be able to understand, learn things very fast, would be able to gel with the existing team, would be having some kind of a problem solving, because the moment we are making that person client facing, okay, of course I'm talking from an IT perspective, services industry perspective. So the only fear most of the managers have with this population, although it helps us, in the span and also in the margin at the end of the day, when we are hiring more of freshers in comparison to laterals. But the challenge, the people on the ground, the industry or the managers face is, I cannot make them front end client. Okay. So that client front ending, whether they are able to take, look into a problem, find a solution. Okay. Having that thinking hat of what could be the probable areas to look into if they are stuck. Okay. Communication is a very, very, very important area wherein we are struggling with that kind of with that particular workforce. So definitely I would say, the skills that you have highlighted are really required, definitely required. And along with it, I believe some amount of business knowledge or domain knowledge, if they are coming up with, also helps them to understand, because it's not just a skill set. Again, I'm coming from my stint with the service industry. It's not just always the skill set that you may be very good with that skill set. Okay, but unless and until you are understanding your domain, it is very difficult for yourself or for the management to make you client ready. But otherwise, bang on. These are the skills that we would actually look at, for any fresher.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a great point, because I remember, see, this alignment has to be there, right? So what I do daily, right, I need to make sense out of that in line with the organization goals, right? So it maybe is my goals, the team goals, the department goals, the function goals, and then it's the organization's goals, right? All of this have to be kind of aligned. And I think one of the great examples that I keep talking about is, I think it was about the Apollo mission in NASA, right? So there was this gentleman who was a janitor, and he was sweeping the floor. The program director or someone, right, was walking by, and then he asked him, "Hey, what are you doing?" I think so. He said, "I'm sending man to moon." Right, and I think that's a great example of how aligned the goals were, right? Because by doing sweeping, which is a simple kind of task, uh, the goal of the organization doesn't change, right? So I think they have to make sense out of what they're doing. So very important.
Every part in that big wheel is important.
Exactly. So I think so while we see this, right, and these things are not in any specific order, let me kind of pull up something and maybe take you a little deeper, right, in terms of, so when we went one level deeper for these skill competency, whatever we call it, and personally I sometimes get confused what to call what, right? So I put both there, right? But what we did is, so those 7 that we saw, we basically said, okay, we saw those, the primary ones and the secondary ones or extended. But then we said, hey, can you rank in your, if you had someone in your team, what would typically, and they ranked, and these are average rankings, right? So what, again, the question is, so let me try and see if you're okay me turning the table, right? And saying, because you've been interacting with the students, right? And we spoke about this. So what are you thinking? What are your thoughts, let's say, from a student perspective, if you're okay to share that, right? When you see the slide.
From a student's perspective, okay. Yeah, definitely, because see, I believe such an opportunity is something which is very novel for any student to have it at this current point in time. I don't know how many students are part of your this platform, okay, and I would say they are extremely lucky
Right.
to have already these skill sets in front of them, what is expected in the you know and they get the time. So first they know what is expected out of them, or what would be expected out of them when they would step into corporate. And you probably I don't know whether you already have the mechanism to prepare them on these skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So having said that, as a student, I would be, again, go back to my MBA days, and had it been, this year or, upcoming years when I would be qualifying and appearing for interviews, sure shot, I would have got the job. Okay. Because um, not many students would actually come to know, that these are what are required and these are what I need to be prepared for.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think
definitely, it's a people who are have signed for, or they are already part of your platform, or of your program rather, are already miles ahead from the rest, I would say.
right. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the intent, right, Uma? I think it's not that we would be able to kind of. So it's not. It's kind of thing that keeps. I think, what is that saying? Don't give them a fish, right? I mean, teach them how to fish, right? So the idea is there could be 10 other skill competencies which they would have to pick up on in their journey of becoming, higher billable and, more experienced. But the what industries expect and kind of make them saying, hey, your business readiness is very different, right, from passing the exam, right?
Absolutely.
So I think you're right. I think so. That's the exact reason why we went ahead, and even before jumping into starting off the program, we connected with industry professionals, because they are the ones who are finding the gaps, right? And then that impacts the hiring
Right.
process. It kind of increases the time to bill, like you said, time to deploy, all of those. The L&D teams kind of spend a lot of time, effort, energy, right, in doing that. So I think one thing which really struck out was none of them marked anything ranking 5, right? Which means, this one they need to
Yeah.
have as the highest proficiency, right? So I think that was something which was quite. So I asked one of the people, and then said, "See, it's not about knowing best; it's about knowing that you need to know, right?"
The
So
urge to know,
yeah,
that
yeah,
urge should be there.
yeah. And at that level, it's like, just be open, do whatever comes your way, be agile, and definitely, keep your team in mind, right? But at the top of the list, which I think has come in every discussion, is you need to be open to learn, right? Learn, and as much, if you need to unlearn some of the things, do that, but just do that, move on and learn, right?
Right.
So
And that's what also we expect in corporates, somebody
correct,
coming up, and telling us,
correct.
I don't like this project, I don't like this shift, I don't like
Yeah,
this project. So it gives me, a very bizarre feeling that, well, you have just started.
yeah,
If
yeah,
from now on, if you start, looking at it with blinkers,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
how would they cope up.
Yeah. Completely agree. Completely agree. And I think I'll move on. I know we are on time, but I cannot go without sharing the story, because the original inspiration of all of this is how to really do how to make learning more experience focused, in the sense, bring in experiential and the tacit knowledge that, tenured industry professionals have, capsulize that, and then pass it down. So there's the story that you may have heard about Major Raghuraman. He was in the army, and then he was the first CEO of Nat Grid after 2611, the national intelligence grid that government formed at that point. He spoke about one instance in the army where he was in a boxing under a boxing coach. In the army, obviously, you don't question what the coach and all tell you, right? So there was this thing when the boxing coach will ask them to, hit 10 punches and then go down on the floor on one hand and then go around, right? And then again stand up and then again 10 punches, right? No one knew why they were doing that other thing on the ground, on the floor. No one questioned. So the final training was over. They were in the live match. So in the first live match, when he got the first punch, right? When he received the first punch, he fell on the floor, right? And then he started having this spinning sensation. Okay, and he was used to it because that's what his coach taught him, right? That going around 10 times was basically to recover from the spinning sensation, right? That you get.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
brilliant example, right? The coach took 20 years to learn that. But Raghu Raman, or Major Raghu Raman, or whoever, his point was whoever was under this coach learned it on their first live match, right? And when this opponent was thinking that he's down because he'll take some time to recover, he was already up, and then he was hitting these 10 punches because he was used to that during the training, right? Now that's where he talks about how can we, as experienced people or senior professionals who are out there in the industry, capsulize their tacit knowledge and give it back. I think that's definitely the intent of the platform, right? So a lot of the content that you keep seeing here are like, see, if you see this current screenshot here, it's like activity based, right? We don't give content, post content which is like there are 10 layers of decision making and all of, they already know that, right? They're studying it in some format somewhere. That part is light, but then how can you do some activities? Can you come up and post your what you would have done, or do some research? So it's a lot more practice based, so that the finally that input comes in saying, you need to learn fast, and you learn from people who already learned, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah. So quickly moving on, I think this is just I wanted to, and to your point around the knowing. So let's say the rankings that we saw there, right, the 4-3-2, those are the desired scales, right? They need to be at those scales to be, that's what the industry professionals are saying. So the intent is that I could be at a 1 or 0 or 2, but I need to get to that 3 or 4, right? So the intent is through some of these activities, through the interviews, through these connect sessions, as much you engage, you kind of definitely get few steps ahead in the journey of the 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 or 1 to 4, right? So there are, so I think you asked one question about, are there some baselining, are there some activities? Yeah, so these activities are very targeted. It may look like these are one-off activities. I'm very excited about one of the things that we have planned for June 4th, and I want to call that date out because we have this game-based activity that we've planned for June 4th, right? Whenever we talk about assessments and evaluations, I think first thing that comes to our mind is, oh my god, there'll be some 100 questions and all of those, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, right. So I think game based assessment,
People won't show up.
they won't show up, they'll not complete the assessment, they'll take the questions, share it with everyone, right? But do group solving and all of that, then everyone will submit. which is okay to some extent as long as they learn. But I think where I'm excited about is I'm so as part of the platform, what we are trying to do is also see how we can make these kind of stuff fun to also do. But the word that I'm really keen to use is engage, right? So it has to be more engaging because they have to find value and they have to really uh, complete what they are expected to complete, not just have fun, right? So that way is, I think on 4th June we have one of the events coming up, right? That's a Saturday. We'll post all of these on the social media handles, the invites and everything. So it's an opportunity for people to come and join the platform. So there would be a game-based assessment that we'll play that day. Could be around how good a team player you are. It could be any of those things that we saw here. So we are working with a couple of partners who would help us administering this. What we are hoping is whoever plays the game at the end of the game, there would be probably a debriefing or a scorecard, right? But the intent is in all those areas that we saw, we want to come up with these game-based assessments to make it more engaging. But definitely there are elements that we are doing, Uma, in terms of the platform, right, to help them upscale, prepare, right? And I think we are towards the end of the live stream. There's a small video, but then I think we are on time, so we'll probably play the video for it's just about a 2-minute video. But we can do it maybe towards the end. But what do you suggest as takeaways for let's say, because you are an industry professional, right? So we have students, so definitely we see that we welcome students onto the platform. The QR code here or the code gives the platform link which they can come and join. But so it's community.grow@pace.com, right? So it's there here as well. But what would be your one or two messages for the student group? I think you've already mentioned, but also for the industry experts, right? Because we need them as part of the journey, right? So it's very important to do that knowledge transfer. We need the knowledge base as well, right? And industry experts are the knowledge base that we are as we see it today as part of the program, right? So any message that you have for them or for the student group as such?
No, before arriving at the message, one thing that I was going in my mind was, is it only for students that what you have designed, or is there something for people who are already in the industry? Okay, maybe as a start, have just joined or has been in the industry, like somebody from me, like me, or somebody senior to me, kind of. So do you have something created or designed for them as well? That is one. Second thing is, I believe it's a great opportunity for students. Okay, of course, at our time when we were passing out from our college, something like this, would have been extremely, extremely beneficial for all of us to crack interviews. The kind of stress that we had gone, in order to crack interviews, I believe is to a large extent being shared here. Okay, so you have taken much of that stress, and I wish luck for students who are already part of your community currently. And I would invite more such students, okay, or who are planning to get into MBA or to any of these. Currently, it is designed for MBA, is it? MBA
So,
HR?
so typically, I think the way we've kept it, Tuma, is any final year student who has
Okay,
not gone through a work experience. A
I
large
see.
part of
Fantastic.
students actually, do a continuation of the studies, right? So they finish their
Okay,
undergrad and go into postgrad without having a work experience, right? So
okay.
typically, if you see some of these are again transferred, the readiness or the preparedness stage just got transferred from the undergrad final year to the postgrad final year, right? That's the thing, but the problem continues to be there, right, for them.
Absolutely.
uh,
And
so
the earlier we reach them, the better.
Exactly. That's the point. So the target is that. That's right. The target is that.
So wonderful. I'm sure, it would definitely going to help, because what I have learned from you so far is the design is absolutely sacrosanct, because you have taken the inputs from people who are already inside the industry and who are the takers of this,
Right.
So they are the takers. So the takers are actually telling you what they need. So I don't think there could be any more validation required for what you are offering, because it is already tried, tested, validated. So I think somebody who is keen to join this program or this platform need not think at all about validation. It's already validated.
Right.
Second, it's a wonderfully designed offering for them to get prepared. And you have involved a lot of the game theory, a lot of other gamified options of learning and coaching. And so I think that will be very interesting for them to to absorb and to partake, because all of us come with different learning ability. Some may be having um, be more keen to learn from books, may more keen to learn from videos. So I think you have touched upon many of those aspects, so that's very exciting. And lastly, I believe that for professionals who are already in the industry, uh, I think they should also step into this platform to see how is that talent getting ready. So to test their readiness, they should also drop in at times and share some of their inputs. So I'm going to be more regular contributor now. More consistent now. And with whatever I have experienced, I would definitely try share here, so that students who are already going through that journey are prepared for those instances and scenarios before they step in. Of course, experience will make them learn in their own way, but it's no harm in being prepared. Any amount of preparedness will definitely help them at the end of the day. But I'm more keen to understand from you that, do you have any offerings for professionals who are already in the industry?
Yeah. So thanks for that, Uma. And just to sum up the students part and that learning piece that you mentioned, any amount of learning, I think I always go back to this example, may not be the best one, but we see these accident-prone zones, drive slow, right? Kind of call-outs, right? It's because people have gone through those tough times, right? They put those signs up there, right? And we are just hopeful that the students would, see those signs and definitely drive slow, which means in this context, come and join the community, right? But I think, okay, so because you asked, I think this was the last slide we had. But since you asked, I think I just want to maybe talk about that, saying yes. So the plan is to obviously see how we can also engage the professionals, right? Because it has to be value driven for them as well, right? It's not just they come and share, but sharing is, to me, like everything in the world to me is like a barter system, right? Today, even if we pay something, we are actually bartering money in return to the service provider, product, whatever we are buying or selling, right? So I think there's definitely is a give and take. The way we've thought this is not to keep it generic, right? So for professionals, I think the important part is they are already a little ahead and they are probably in their specialized pockets of their journey, right? So it could be specific needs that they have. So the intent is to see how we can extend, and keeping in mind the overarching element of communities of practice, right? To extend specific, again, if I can reverse the term, practice-based communities, which means that identify areas which is the need. So what we did is we did a little bit of asking, calling, brainstorming, and there's actually
practitioners, academic.
sorry, just give me a second. I had it in the annexure, but I think I'll bring it up because you asked, right? So I think what we've said is there would be definitely some part of what are they giving? They're sharing their knowledge, helping us, helping students, but they could also go through a lot of these. We have upskilling courses, right, which are people driven courses that's available. But I think where the call out, if you see the communities of practice, we have been brainstorming, and this is something that is out there now, while this was behind the curtains. But we are trying to come up with areas where we see our specific people, specific areas, right, where we'll come up with certain communities of practice which makes sense for specific groups. And the best part, what I'm excited about is not everyone would be keen to join all the communities, right? So they can only join the ones which they want to join. And that's how their engagement and commitment towards those would be more. So the professionals and industry experts, I think it's again, we are coming up with those smaller communities of practice. In fact, one of the things that we have been discussing is, could we do something about a lot of organizations today do things about diversity hiring, inclusivity, returnship programs, right? Specifically, now we are thinking through on those in terms of how to bring in all of these together and come up with specific communities of practice. It has to be value driven. Everyone needs to find value in that. So the time we are able to kind of arrive at that overall value proposition, we definitely have things in the mind. So that slide, the sneak peek of that slide showed you, right, that there's something in the works. So I'm hoping, sooner, sooner than later. I think we don't want to kind of take this entire year, but hopefully in a few months, at least by next quarter, we should be able to come up with at least a couple,
There are
one
a
of
lot
them.
of things to look at workplace. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we are hoping and I'm very keen to look at. So I
Yeah.
will be hooked into your platform and
Sure.
will wait
Sure.
for these programs to come up really. And that returnship, when you mentioned, it's also one of, that piece I am very keen to look for. What is your offering at that space? Yeah, you wanted to show this video to us.
Yeah. No, so that's why I just showed a sneak peek. Didn't want to kind
Uh-huh.
of still kept it a surprise as
Yeah,
to what is there. But
wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful.
I think it's important that we do these through the overall concept of communities of practice, right? Yeah. So
There
for
is a need for professionals also. It's not just about students,
that's
because
right,
as professionals, we also need that safety net when you have been using this community learning space.
right,
Because now with this virtual environment, although we are getting back to a new normal, but it's a new normal. So it's not what we used to
exactly,
be at that zone, before
exactly,
COVID days. So definitely these kind of platforms, community learning or community practice, whatever you say or name it, I think we need to engage ourselves with these kind of platforms, because
right,
there would be a lot of our questions would be answered through
yeah,
these communities, I believe.
correct,
So it's a new way of learning and engaging.
yeah, yeah,
So wonderful.
yeah. Right. So we'll probably just go through this video before
Yeah.
we end. Okay. So I just have to optimize the clip so that this is audible.
Imagine how powerful it is to be part of a community that is made up of international practitioners, academicians, and young professionals who are all striving together to exchange ideas and grow.
Come join us in building the largest community of practice for students in Asia. We aim to make students corporate ready, geek ready, business ready, whatever you call it.
Here we help you to learn at your fingertips and practice the art of networking.
At AtPace, we provide you the opportunity to select your preferred area of interest for discussions. The most engaging student will get the ongoing support in their self-preneur journey.
The Grow AtPace community is essentially about having an authentic learning experience from your peers. It's about identifying your strengths, improving your skills that will in turn shape your career and aspirations.
The key takeaways for this program are expert sharing sessions on relevant topics through micro-learning approach, lot of opportunity to engage with fellow students across Asia from the same college and other colleges on a common platform. We also have an amazing way by which someone could learn, earn, engage, and even get live project opportunities.
This is what the AtPace Academy community program is bringing together.
Sign up for the entire year and you can have an opportunity to be part of the design team. Come join us.
Join us to learn, share, and connect.
Welcome to AtPace.
To get the boost in your career selection.
Join us in this exciting program that we can learn, act, and grow at pace.
Too good.
Yep. So that's what we have, Uma, and it's been great to have you here today. And thanks for all your inputs. We look forward to having you, like you said, more regularly, and maybe we will see if you can also kind of spread the word, and we welcome all professionals, right, to come and share.
Absolutely. It's a great learning. I think I'm very eager to learn by joining this community, and I'm really hoping that it would be an exciting journey for me as well. So I invite people who are watching this live stream and who are part of my connections, please at least explore. Even if you do not wish to join, come and explore, and if you like it, the choice is yours. I leave it to you, and I believe you are doing a great work. So
yeah, so it's
my
the entire team.
heartiest best wishes to the AtPace team, to you and the AtPace team.
Thanks, Uma. Thanks. Nice having you. Thanks a lot for your time, Uma.
Okay. Yeah. Great chat.